Welcome back. Nearly 4 years after shutting it down, Britain now reopening its embassy in the Iranian capital. Relations between the two countries continuing to thaw on the heels of the recent nuclear deal. Meanwhile, the White House still trying to drum up public support for this agreement after a bombshell report by the Associated Press last week suggesting that a side deal was done which allows Tehran to use its own inspectors at a suspected military site. Ambassador Robert Jordan is with us. He's the author of the book, Desert Diplomat, Inside Saudi Arabia Following 9/11. He's also the former U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia under President George W. Bush and a diplomat in residence at Southern Methodist University. Also joining us, Republican Congresswoman Martha McSally from Arizona. She's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Good day to you both. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ambassador,
Good morning, Maria.
let me kick this off with you in terms of this side deal. What do you know about this side deal? Is it possible and feasible that we have agreed to Tehran using its own inspectors?
No, I think there's probably less than meets the eye here, Maria. The best we can piece together from some pretty sketchy Associated Press reports suggests that the IAEA, the inspectors, have agreed with Tehran that the physical swiping of the samples and collecting of the samples will be done by Iranian individuals, but they will be under the very close supervision, monitoring, and direction of the actual IAEA inspectors. So if that's really the case, and again, I think the reporting has been very sketchy on this, it's probably something that is not all that unusual. We have seen in the past, I think in South Africa, other situations where the actual physical work has been done by people on the ground who live there, but again, under the very strict control, direction, and physical proximity of the actual inspectors themselves. So
right.
I'm trusting this is actually what's happened here. It appears from the head of the IAEA inspection program that that's what they're really talking about.
Congresswoman, it certainly feels like things are getting more dangerous. I want to get your take on all of the above. We've got the Iran deal in place, and then, of course, there's ISIS, who seems to be getting stronger. You are a former combat pilot, first female combat pilot. What are your thoughts on the strategy against ISIS so far?
Well, let me, Maria, just touch on the side deals that were mentioned earlier. We passed the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act in May, specifically stating that the administration needed to give Congress every possible piece of paper, agreement, side deal, so that we could review it. And in a closed-door meeting with Secretary Kerry, about 2 hours, it was classified in nature, but this was not classified. I asked him a question whether everything had been turned over to Congress for us to review in accordance with this Review Act, and he said yes. And if these reports are true, these two, at least perhaps two, side agreements between the IAEA and Iran are troubling to us, that we are not being able to have full oversight and review of all documents before we make this important vote.
I mean,
now, when it comes to
seems
ISIS,
extraordinary. It truly seems extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And look, this is, they'll get kind of wonky on you saying this is usual agreements under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, but there's nothing usual about the largest state sponsor of terror wanting to acquire a nuclear weapon, and us in this deal that the administration has brokered, us having the oversight of their past possible military dimensions. We don't know how they might cheat in the future unless we know how they've cheated in the past. So coming clean and fessing up on all their past activities and the documents and the scientists and the sites that the inspectors need access to is vitally important moving forward. That's one of many reasons why this is a very dangerous deal.
Yeah, actually, we've got some meetings next week. President Obama, Ambassador, is speaking at the annual National Clean Energy Summit. You've got German Chancellor Angela Merkel is meeting with Francois Hollande to talk about Ukraine, and then Gulf states also talking about the latest in the Gulf as well. What's your take on the progress being made with our Middle Eastern friends, Ambassador, in the wake of the Iran deal and the current situation with ISIS?
Well, I think they have justified serious concerns about this Iran nuclear deal. It creates a shift in the balance of power that I think is going to be quite profound. And so they have a right to be concerned. They also need to gather themselves a bit in dealing with ISIS. They have to develop a better coalition. They have to develop more boots on the ground on their own turf. They need to have a more proactive procedure for going after ISIS. This is all something that the U.S. has to play a role in. We can't simply turn our backs on them, but they also have to police their own neighborhood. I think these talks are going to be very important. I think it's also quite interesting that the Europeans are champing at the bit to start doing business with Iran. And this is one of the things that has actually weakened our coalition. There are so many countries anxious to get in there to develop their business relationships in Iran, that it has really created, I think, some discord and weakness within this coalition.
Right.
That's something to continue to watch.
And of course, just today, we know that Britain is reopening that embassy in Tehran.
Right.
Congressman, there's also history in the making that I want to get your take on. 2 women will graduate the Army Ranger course. Very exciting there. You being a real veteran as well as a leader in terms of the military, and being a woman must make you happy to see this.
Oh, absolutely. I am so proud of Captain Grease and Lieutenant Haver, West Point graduates, and both of them making it through this grueling course that almost 300 men who are already in many combat positions washed out of and didn't make it to graduation on Friday. These women are amazing. They showed physical and mental toughness. If you see the press conference with some of their colleagues, their male colleagues, talking about how they couldn't carry the heavy weapons anymore, and they couldn't find another teammate to carry them for them on these long rucks. And the women are the ones who stepped up. This shows what I have been long advocating, that we are a merit-based military and we should pick the best man for the job, even if it's a woman, for every single combat position. It's not hypothetical anymore. These women really make us proud.
Well, you are a pioneer, so thank you for that. Ambassador, Congressman, good to have you on the program today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria.
We will see you soon. We want to get to the global market sell-off.